When I came home early that day, I heard my wife Sarah's voice. "David's going to tell Rebecca tonight," she was saying on the phone. David was my best friend, and Rebecca was my daughter. At that moment, I realized how long everything had been planned. My name is Marcus Thompson. I'm 35 years old, and I work at a software company in Chicago. Sarah and I had been married for 8 years. We have a 6-year-old daughter, Rebecca. David Martinez has been my closest friend since high school. He was my best man at our wedding. For the past 6 months, strange things had been happening at home. Sarah was constantly hiding her phone, saying she had to stay late at work. She worked at a marketing agency, but Monday nights had never been this busy before. David kept canceling our meetups, always making excuses about work. That evening, my meeting had ended early. When I quietly entered the house, I heard Sarah having a phone conversation in the kitchen. Her voice was different, softer, more intimate. "David, are you sure you're going to tell him tonight?" she said. "Marcus comes home late from work, and Rebecca will be asleep." "Yes, I'm ready too." My heart stopped. "David, my David." "I know, honey, it's going to be difficult, but we can't live secretly anymore," Sarah said. "Rebecca will adjust too. You'll be a wonderful father figure." At that moment, everything fell into place. Sarah's recent changes, David's distant behavior, even Rebecca asking, "Why doesn't Uncle David come over anymore?" I quietly went upstairs, pretending to take a shower while actually thinking through my plan. This wasn't just betrayal, this was a complete conspiracy, and I needed to find out how long this had been going on. The next day at the office, I acted normal, but my mind was elsewhere. In our 15-year friendship, David and I had shared so much. My work, Rebecca, problems with Sarah. I had told him everything. During lunch break, I decided to check our old phone bills, call records between Sarah's number and David's number. The first messages started 4 months ago, small things like "How's Marcus?" But gradually more frequent, longer conversations. When I got home that evening, Sarah was cooking dinner in the kitchen. Rebecca was playing with her toys. A normal family picture, but now everything felt fake. "How was your day?" Sarah asked with a smile. "Good," I said. "Have you seen David lately?" Sarah's hand holding the spoon trembled for a moment. "No, why did you ask?" "He seems very busy, doesn't call anymore." "You know, everyone has their own things to deal with," she said, shrugging. That night after Sarah fell asleep, I opened my laptop. If what they were planning was really this, I needed to be prepared too. The first thing I did was review our financial situation. Joint accounts, our house deed, Rebecca's education fund. Everywhere Sarah's name appeared. Then I started legal research. Custody rights, asset division, rights in case of infidelity. 3 days later, David called me. "I need to discuss something important." My heart rate accelerated. "Sure. Where?" "Our usual bar, at 8 o'clock. That evening when I went to the bar, David was already there. He was drinking beer, constantly checking his phone. When he saw me, he stood up but couldn't look into my eyes. "Marcus, this is very difficult," he began. "There's something I need to tell you." I listened silently. "Sarah and I have a relationship," he finally said. "I know this is terrible, but we fell in love, and we want to get married." I sipped my beer. "How long has this been going on?" 4 months, he said, hanging his head. "We didn't want it, but it just happened. Do you want Rebecca too?" David raised his head. "Yes. I love her very much too. I'll be a good father." At that moment, I smiled. "I understand." David was surprised. "You're being this calm scares me." "David, we've been friends for 15 years. If you're going to be happy with Sarah, I want your happiness too." David breathed a sigh of relief. "Really? I mean, I thought you'd be angry." "I'm not angry, but I want something from you. Anything. I want to make this transition period smooth for Rebecca. Her psychology shouldn't be damaged. That's why we need to make a plan." David nodded. "You're right. Whatever you want. So, what does Sarah say about this situation?" "She also hoped you'd be understanding, but I'm going there and tell you tonight." When I got home, Sarah was watching TV in the living room. I sat next to her. I talked to David. I said. Sarah's face turned white. "Marcus, I know Sarah. He told me everything." Sarah started crying. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to, but, Sarah, if you're going to be happy with him, it's not a problem for me, but we need to think about Rebecca's well-being." Sarah looked at me in amazement. "Are you really not angry? What would anger change? You love each other." The following week, we discussed Sarah and David's marriage plans, Rebecca's custody, financial arrangements, the house. We decided to handle everything in a civilized manner. But of course, this was just the beginning. A week later, Sarah packed her bags. She had explained to Rebecca, "We're going to stay with Uncle David for a while." Rebecca had mixed feelings, but she loved David, so she didn't resist much. 2 weeks later, Sarah brought the divorce papers. "We divided everything fairly, Marcus. You keep the house, I'll move to David's place with Rebecca." While signing the papers, I said, I hope you'll be happy. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. You're so understanding, Marcus. Rebecca is lucky to have you as her father. She'll come on weekends, I said. David and I can remain friends too. A month later, Sarah and David got married. A small ceremony, just close friends. They had invited me too, but I said I'm not ready yet. Rebecca spent half the week with me, half with them. David was really treating her well. He was even more patient than me sometimes. 3 months later, David called me. Marcus, I want to thank you for handling this process so maturely. Anyone else would have made it a court case. It doesn't matter, David. Rebecca is happy. That's the most important thing. Actually, there's something else, he said hesitantly. Sarah is pregnant. This was news I hadn't expected. Congratulations, I said. I know it's weird, but it'll be a sibling for Rebecca. Yes. Nice, I said. 6 months later, Sarah gave birth to her second child, Ethan. David was very happy. He was constantly sharing photos on social media, trying to create a perfect family image. During this time, I was quietly making other plans. A year later, David's company's financial situation started to deteriorate. He worked in the construction sector. The economic crisis had hit. Sarah's salary alone wasn't enough for 2 children and a house loan. When David called me asking to borrow money, I said, of course. How much do you need? $50,000. I know it's a lot, but the company went bankrupt. Until I find a new job? No problem, David, but there's one condition. What condition? I'm giving this in exchange for a promissory note. Let it be an official document. David hesitated a bit. Marcus, aren't we friends? David, this is money business. Friendship is separate. Let's not mix it with business. Finally, he agreed. I gave him $50,000 in exchange for a 6-month term promissory note with 15% interest. 6 months later, David couldn't pay the money. His company had completely closed. He was unemployed. Marcus, can you give me 3 more months? He begged. David, there's a promissory note. But okay, 3 more months. But interest will continue to accrue. 9 months passed. David still couldn't pay. This time Sarah called. Marcus, David is very stressed. This debt is killing him. Can't we find a solution? Sarah, I helped David as a friend. He's exploiting that. What do you mean? When I gave him $50,000, David had vacation photos from Dubai on social media. Does someone with money problems vacation in Dubai? Sarah had gone quiet. Besides, you didn't need that money. You just wanted it to maintain your luxury lifestyle. Marcus, this isn't fair. Sarah, speaking of fairness, weren't you the one who ended my 8-year marriage? Sarah's voice started trembling. Is this revenge? No. Sarah, this is just business. David owes me money. I want it. 2 weeks later, David came and said they had to sell their house. Marcus, I'll sell the house and pay you, but then I don't know where we'll live. David, there are rental houses. You can live more modestly, but Rebecca's school. I'm already covering Rebecca's school expenses. No problem. They sold the house, paid the money. They moved to a small rental house on the other side of town. Sarah started working part-time jobs. David was still looking for work. During this process, Rebecca started staying with me more. Papa, why is Uncle David always sad? She would ask. Adult problems, I would say. Don't worry about it. 6 months later, Sarah became pregnant again. 3rd child. David was going crazy. Marcus, I don't know what we're going to do. We're barely getting by. David, there's something called family planning, I said. People should know their capacity. But Sarah wants it. Sarah wants a lot of things, apparently. A year later, the 3rd child was born. Lily. Sarah couldn't work anymore. She had to stay home with 3 children. David was working a low-paying job. Rebecca was now living with me completely. Sarah could see her once a week, because she had other children too. Papa, why doesn't Mommy see me? Rebecca asked one day. She wants to see you, but she's very tired because of your baby siblings. I said. I can help them. No, sweetheart, you're happy with me, aren't you? Rebecca nodded. She really was happy. She had a father figure focused on her. Her school was good. She had friends. 2 years later, David and Sarah's marriage started to crack. Money troubles. 3 children. David's unemployment stress. Sarah was constantly crying. David had started coming home late. Sarah called me saying, Marcus, I don't know what we're going to do. David has changed. He's not like before. Sarah, stress changes people, I said. Maybe give it some time. But the children are being affected too. Ethan is constantly crying, Lily too. Would you take them to a child psychologist? We don't have money, Marcus. Everything is so expensive. At that moment, I realized my plan had worked. Sarah was no longer that old, confident woman who controlled everything. She was just a tired, stressed, and helpless mother, Sarah, if you want, I can arrange a child psychologist for Rebecca. We'll look into the other children too. Really? There was hope in Sarah's voice. Of course, Rebecca is my daughter, but you're her mother too. 3 years later, David lost his job. The company downsized. He was among the first to be laid off. Sarah called me crying. Marcus, David doesn't come home anymore. I think he's with someone else. Irony. David was leaving Sarah, just like Sarah had left me. Sarah, are you sure? I saw messages on his phone. Someone named Amanda. She was supposedly helping David find work, but what are you going to do? I don't know, Marcus. How will I live alone with 3 children? Sarah, if you want, you can transfer Rebecca's custody completely to me. At least you'll be free from her burden. Silence. That wouldn't be fair to Rebecca, she finally said. Sarah, Rebecca is already living with me. She's comfortable at school, among her friends. She can see you whenever she wants. 2 weeks later, Sarah filed for divorce. David had left the house, living with Amanda. Sarah was left alone with 3 children in the rental house. During the court process, Sarah called me, Marcus. David doesn't want to pay alimony, not even for the children. What am I going to do? Did you hire a lawyer? I don't have money. Sarah, I can arrange a lawyer for you, but there's one condition. What condition? You'll completely transfer Rebecca's custody to me. A long silence. Okay, she finally said. The court process lasted 6 months. David was forced to pay alimony, but a very small amount. Sarah had to receive social assistance. During this process, Rebecca came completely under my responsibility. Sarah saw her once a month, and each time Rebecca showed less interest in her mother. Papa, why is Mommy always crying? Rebecca asked one day. Because she's sad, I said. Am I making her sad? No, sweetheart. These are adult problems. 5 years later, today, Rebecca is 11 years old, a very happy and successful girl. She sees me as her real father. She sees Sarah once a month, but now calls her Aunt Sarah. Sarah lives in a small apartment, with 3 children. She works part-time jobs, barely getting by. David married Amanda, but she doesn't have a job either. Both are struggling. Last week, David called me. Marcus, guess what happened? Amanda left me. She ran away with someone else. I'm sorry, David, I said. Marcus, how stupid was I? I lost Sarah. Now Amanda too. David, life works that way. People pay the price for the decisions they make. I wish I had never gotten involved with Sarah. You were a great friend. I ruined everything. We can't change the past, David. Marcus, would you give me one more chance? As a friend? A long silence. David, when you were with Sarah, you told me we fell in love, we didn't want it, but it happened. Now the same thing happened with Amanda. Do you see the pattern? David had gone quiet. You're just someone trying to escape your current situation. When you were with Sarah, you wanted to get rid of the burden of being single. When you were with Amanda, you were trying to escape family responsibility. Marcus, David, unless you change, you'll continue making the same mistakes. That's why I think it's meaningless to rebuild our friendship. I hung up the phone. That evening while eating dinner with Rebecca, she asked, Papa, do we ever see Uncle David? This is normal, but are you sad? I smiled. No, Rebecca. As long as you're with me, I'm not sad about anything. I hugged Rebecca. Sarah and David had betrayed me. But in the end, they hadn't lost the most valuable thing, my daughter. In fact, we had formed even tighter bonds. Sometimes you don't need to plan revenge. You just need to wait for people to pay the price for their own mistakes. And sometimes the biggest victory is realizing that what you lost wasn't that valuable after all. Sarah and David deserved each other, and I had found the opportunity to become a better father.